So my name is Kevin Curry, and I'm here to tell you about CityCamp. CityCamp is an international unconference series and online community dedicated to innovation for municipal governments and community organizations. And it started in January of last year in 2010, and people came from all over the United States, Canada, the UK, to talk about this idea of innovating around community organizations and municipal governments. So stimulate, participate, collaborate, repeat. Each city camp has 4 goals. Bring together people like you from local governments, community organizations, civic hackers, journalists, get them in a room together and start to create a space where we can talk about this idea of opening local government, participating in local government. And second is to create and maintain patterns for using the web as a platform. One of the taglines of CityCamp is Gov2O goes local. And some people think that's too narrow, but really the web is an undeniable force in how we are able to connect and do all these things. I was following along TransparencyCamp yesterday through the hashtag, which was great. Third goal is to foster a community of practices around this idea. And then the fourth, which is the most important thing, and you'll hear more about this hopefully this afternoon, is to create action that comes out of the camp. So just like Nicole was saying earlier, we don't want to just come together and talk and feel good about what we're doing. We want to actually do something when we leave. Okay, it's an unconference, right? There are couches. This is the San Francisco room, aptly noted for the beanbags of CityCamp Chicago, very first CityCamp. It started in Chicago, and my co-organizer actually is Jennifer Polka from Code for America. So we spent about 3 months putting together this idea that really, ultimately, it came from TransparencyCamp and Gov2O Camp, where we're all having this conversation about, open government, participatory government, open data, and it was all happening at the federal level. And there were a bunch of us who said, really, local government is where, government touches our lives on a day-to-day basis. Why aren't we having this conversation about local? So literally sent out a tweet and said we should do a city camp. Jen took me up on it and said, I'll help you organize it. And before we know, we had 100 and some odd people coming to Chicago to talk about this idea. The Sunlight Foundation has been a big supporter of this event from the beginning. They've actually sponsored every city camp that's happened in the United States. So after that first event, we told everyone, okay, we did it. You saw how we did it. Go back and do it where you live. Jen was getting ready to start Code for America. I have a day job. I do all of this stuff in my volunteer time where I can steal time away from my job and my family. And we said, listen, we can't do this again. You need to go do it. And so we left Chicago and said, take CityCamp back to your cities. Well, one city did that, Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has a great community for this, as you all know. So the folks at iStrategy Labs and Shiny Heart put together a CityCamp for D.C. week. But after that, it really, no other events were planned. And it didn't fade out because the online community was really vibrant. People were using the CityCamp hashtag continually on Twitter. The forum was active, and it was still there. There was still something there, but there were no events happening. Eventually, people started to write me and said, can you help me do a city camp in my city? Or I want to do a city camp and I don't know what to do. And so I didn't know what to do either, really. I didn't have the time to help. I didn't have the resources to help. So we came up with this idea of creating, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but it explains these numbers here, of creating this open source brand for CityCamp so that anybody could do it. And once we did that, CityCamp started happening everywhere. There have been 11 of them in cities around the world. You see here, there are 2 in Russia. The first international one was in the UK. It was organized by our friends from FutureGov. I don't know if any of them are here today, but they did an awesome city camp in London. It was really inspiring, and a bunch of people came for that. About 900 people participated in camps just last year. So the first one in January, a bunch of time went by, and but by the time the year was up, 900 people have participated in these things. 519 members on online forums, and 879 posts. Okay, so what do I mean by open source brand? Everything that has to do with CityCamp is in the Creative Commons. And I probably don't have to explain to you guys why that is. The idea is so that it can spread. And we want city camps to happen. We want people to come together and talk about innovating in their cities and in their community organizations. So we put it in the Creative Commons, and worked with GovFresh, who's been a big supporter of CityCamp also, to create this idea of an open source brand. And so what that did was, now we have a pattern that we can use and repeat and follow. And so here's an example of 5 CityCamp homepages. A couple from the UK. There's getting ready to be one coming up in Raleigh, North Carolina, San Francisco, Colorado, and they're all following this pattern. There are rules, some very simple rules about how you can organize a camp and what you need to do as a host. But the idea is to make it easy and to follow with the successes that other people are doing, just like we did with TransparencyCamp, just like we did after coming out of Gov2O Camp. We said, we saw that, it works, let's do it. Okay, so what I want you to do is, in my action here, is to try to get some of you to start a camp where you live. And so I'm just going to take a couple of slides to tell you how to do that. Here's the URL, citycamp.govfresh.com/startacamp. Okay, so the first thing you would do is join the online community. eDemocracy Foundation hosts this online forum where people talk about CityCamp and the things that are important about it. There's also a team site, which is for people who actually want to organize one. This is the main community. But if you're thinking about organizing one and you want help, there's a team forum. And the second thing you can do is host a meetup. And so we have this meetup site that GovLoop put together for us to organize meeting activities for people who want to keep it going between their events. And that's what I do. I live down in Virginia Beach, a couple hundred miles down the road, and I host meetups and people come together and we just talk about it. So we haven't had our event yet. We're doing our planning. There are supposed to be a 3 and a 4 in here, but I haven't finished this slide deck. It's only been a year and I'm just now getting around to a deck for this thing. So it's not unfinished, actually. It's my teaser for this afternoon. If you want to find out what 3 and 4 are, please come this afternoon and we can talk about what else you can do to host a camp. And kind of a random slide here. I'm a big fan of Delicious. I'm really excited that they just got acquired by YouTube founders to keep this thing going, because I use it, and a lot of people use it, to create catalogs of information that are important. So, there's, like I sent this around yesterday, there are about 92 posts up here that intersect local government transparency. If you go to the main root tags CityCamp, here are all the open data catalogs that we keep track of. Here are all the ideation platforms. So every CityCamp uses like a user voice or a Google moderator to crowdsource ideas for the camp. Here's where they're all, you can find them all right here. And then here are all the camps, and there's lots more good stuff out there. I think this is my last slide. I think I'm out of time, so thank you very much. If you want to find out more, please come this afternoon. Thanks.